California is a beautiful place. You've got the ocean, you've got the mountains, you've got the forest, wildlife, the people, the stores, the restaurants, etc. It's just beautiful. But when I made a trip to Sacramento, I ran into a monster. Now, this video isn't just about a sick rock-crawling machine. It's about somebody with vision and someone that still knows how to harness the American dream. If you want to see what the hell I'm talking about, you're going to want to sit back, you're going to want to relax, and you're going to want to check this out. And before we start this video, I'm going to ask you to hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell so you're notified of all new videos. Here we go. So I'm doing a little bit of maintenance on my truck while I'm at a motel. And the truck was just recently at Stellar Built here in Sacramento, California. And they quoted me 3 days to install 488s, an Eaton e-locker up front, and RCV front axles. All that work is done. I'm doing my break-in right now on my gear oil. Even though they got gem polished, still gonna do the 500-mile dump. But Stellar Built actually had my truck done 24 hours ahead of schedule. How badass is that? I couldn't explain it to them enough how every other shop not only never does that, ever. These guys got it back to me 24 hours early. That's badass, because every day that I don't have my truck, I have to stay in a hotel. Do you see what I'm saying? But let me show you real quick. We got one more thing that needs to happen on this truck, and she is officially done. And these are going. And there's a 200 series rack going in. But there's the RCVs. The beauty of having high performance is high performance equals high maintenance. It just is what it is. So I'm under there right now spraying my Heim joints like I do quite often. But I'll tell you what, this truck is a hell of a lot less maintenance than the 80 series was. I did just do an oil change on this. I changed this with Mobil 1 every 5,000 miles. And one very cool thing is when Stellar Built installed the front locker, the front e-locker, I showed them where they could put a switch where I had openings and such. And the day it was about ready to be finished, I totally forgot that I had a S-Pod Pro. I totally forgot they could use the switch on the S-Pod Pro to activate the e-locker. Not to worry. These guys at Stellar Built are so good. I'm not exaggerating. I got no discount. It's all good. They're just solid dudes. They found it and installed it, so they didn't have to run any wire through my my firewall. I had 10 spots on my Bantam Pro. I had 1 spot open, and they found it. So it's beautiful. Couldn't be more factory. Anyways, I figured I'd just tell you what was going on. If you're ever in California, Stellar Built, I'm going to be doing a few more videos on them because I've got the content for it. Stellar Built is exactly what every other shop, no matter what I've said about any shop, every other shop should aspire to be. You people are dropping out their keys in the morning, people are taking their keys, they're ringing them in, the shop is already up and humming, vehicles are moving in and out. It is no joke, like a well-oiled machine. And it's owned by a dude named Dimitri, and knowledgeable. Every single solitary person I dealt with in there. The kids working on my truck, the kids aligned in trucks, everybody knew what was up. Everybody drove a Toyota, and everybody knew their shit. There was no bullshit. He has got an amazing crew there, and he could have charged me twice what he charged me. That's how blown away when I saw the price. 488s in the front, 488s in the rear, Eaton E-Locker, and throwing in my RCV axles. I supplied the axles. I had them because RCV couldn't get them to me. I had to get them elsewhere, but I did. I was shocked at the price. I probably couldn't have done it cheaper myself. And I would have geared this truck, but I was told by not one, but 2 master Toyota technicians, either do the supercharger or do gears. You don't need both. Well, that's entirely wrong, because I was on Imogene Pass, just coming down the mountain pass, and when my truck was in 4-wheel low, she started running away on me because the gears were too high. They couldn't handle the 35-inch tires. Now with 488s in here, locked front and rear, I think I'm pretty much good to go now. And like I said, in a week and a half, the Land Cruiser 200 series steering rack is going in, as well as those tie rod ends are gone. So this truck is going to be as beastly as a 4Runner gets. So there it is. If you want to see more on this 4Runner, I have every video of everything I installed, from the supercharger to the intercooler to the S-Pod to the dual lithium batteries to the snorkel to the intake to the wiper reservoir replacement, to the V-Locks windows, to the rear drawers, to all the wiring, all the armor, and all the mods I did to the interior. Woo! Yeah, she needs to be cleaned. Truck's been in the shop for 2 days, so that's my excuse. At any rate, I hope I hit the record button. Did I? So, while getting my truck worked on, I had the ability to walk around the shop and pretty much film whatever I wanted to. And when I saw this thing, I couldn't believe how beautiful this truck was. It isn't your average rock crawler. This is a perfect example of a Toyota, inside, outside. It's a 4Runner with a factory V8 in it. And then he turned it into an absolute monster. But it is the most beautiful vehicle I ever saw. It made me hate my new truck. Well, I shouldn't say hate my new build, but the ability to crawl rocks is no longer there, so that kind of bums me out. But here's the story. We're going to take a deep look at this build with the guy that built it, but first I want to show you the shop. This shop is utterly amazing. I thought Slee Off-Road had it on lockdown, but I'm going to have to tell you, Stellar Built is right there, if not surpassing, and I'm going to show you why. So before we go in depth on this off-road monster rock crawling forerunner that Dimitri has created, we're going to take a look at his shop real quick. These guys do service, they do overland builds, and they do custom work, all in-house. And I'll tell you what, unlike any other shop, if you come in and you have an emergency, even if it takes them 2 to 3 days, I can attest to this, they'll get you in. No other shop does that, period. And I can attest to that from experience as well. Everybody in the shop loves what they do. They love working there, and it shows in everything that they do. I was there for 3 days total, even though the truck was only under the knife for 2 days, and I got to meet and talk to everybody. And it is the kind of shop that you want to bring your vehicle to, especially if it's a vehicle like mine, where you have a lot invested in it, time, energy, effort, etc. These guys handle it really well. But let's take a look at the build. All right, so I'm with Dimitri, the owner of Stellar Built in Sacramento, California. And you guys may have heard of this shop. I heard of this shop. I've always wanted to come here and check it out, and I am so stoked that I did, because this might be the biggest, baddest shop in the United States. Sorry to everyone else, but it is what it is. Dimitri, I appreciate your time and all your guys' time.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming by. Richie, I appreciate you.
No worries, no worries.
Shooting this video.
Tell me about this.
We'll do a little walk around of this creation that we built here over the years. This is a 2005 Toyota 4Runner. We call it the Moscow Mule. This is our kind of shop build to showcase some of the work that we've done in this thing. So I'll do a quick little walk around of some of the components and just overall specs and such things. So
what's beautiful about this is as much of an animal, I mean an aggressive animal, the interior is still beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here in Northern California, and this is the rock crawler country. So we have the Rubicon, we have Fordyce right next to us, and there's a lot of builds around this area that are kind of purposely built exo cage style buggies, meaning like, you know, whatever left that's from factory interior, maybe some seats, maybe a dash. So the goal with this build to retain all the creature comforts that came from factory from Toyota. So as far as the inside, you still have AC, you still have a heater, you have everything that comes from the truck stock. So now everything below the frame, that's where the party is. So that's all custom. So
all right. So start at the beginning.
Okay, so a most important component here would be probably the axles. So the axles are on this truck off of a 2005 and up Ford Super Duty. Particularly the front is a Dana 60 and the rear is a Sterling 10.5. The front axle has been reinforced, so we can go into a front here. Front axle has reinforced with a Barnes off-road welding supply with a truss. That's their low-profile truss. We also added another reinforcement to kind of house the PSC steering system and all that. RCV axles. This has factory spindles that have been machined for high steer. So this is from Weaver Fab, the guys out in Reading. So they did that work. Steering, as I said, is a PSC hydro assist setup. So we are using a FJ80 box. You can see here.
I saw that.
Yeah. So FJ80 box. The box has been ported, rebuilt from our friends at Redhead Gear Steering Gear. Basically, do all the rebuilds. We send them out to them. They make the box nice and tight. So we did modify the pitman arm to accommodate some of the geometry here. So as you can tell, it's really tight. Frame is clearanced in the way so that pitman arm swivels and doesn't clip anything. So okay, so moving on to the front, this differential cover is from Ballistic Fab. That's their low profile design. So this is as tight as you can possibly get without clipping anything. So we use that as the steering, as this drag link here turns, it just allows it more clearance, so nothing clips as you turn. So as far as the suspension itself, we're using 14-inch coilovers all around. So these are 14-inch coils from King's, external resi with adjusters. We like those. I mean, it's a good size that we've been using most of the crawler builds. I will say that getting 14-inch coilovers in the back was a little challenging, but you know, we made it work.
The way you made it work is outstanding. We'll get to that, but
yeah.
It's outstanding.
All right, so King air bumps all around. As far as the links, it's just a 2-inch DOM. All the joints that we use in this truck are from TMR, guys out in Canada. We like their joints. They're nice, rebuildable joints. They last quite some time, so it's a good setup. As far as the tires themselves, these are 40-inch Maxi Streps. So now the reason why I went with these tires, after taking a trip down south to Australia, I noticed everybody was running this tire.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and for some reason here in US, I mean, you see them occasionally, but not as much as it is there. Literally every single truck there, from 33s to 40s, was these straps right here. I'm like, why you guys? What's up with these tires? You know, here like we had this, we had the Goodyear MTRs. That was a good wave. Like a lot of people ran those. No, we went through all that. This is the tire. So anyway, so I decided to give it a try. So super sticky, great tire off-road. Only downside to this particular one, it's a little too soft for the highway. So, you know, I could probably maybe get 5,000–6,000 miles out of this thing. But off-road, this thing absolutely is incredible.
That was going to be my next question, was how do they do on the highway?
Yeah, they drive great. I mean, they are a little soft, so you know, it's you get, I suppose, maybe a little bounce, but this was a purpose-built truck, so highway manners is not necessarily as important to me, just because.
But you told me you do drive this on the highway. Yeah,
this thing that gets driven on the highway, and but for like, let's say a long stretch, like you know 500 miles, 1,000-mile trips, I prefer to trailer this thing. So
makes sense.
Yeah, we're right next to the Rubicon, so this thing is you know 80 miles, 100 miles away from us. So this is what exactly it's for. You can drive it to the trail, drive it back if you want.
That's badass. Oh, dude, stop.
Let's go in the back. Let's see what we did in the rear suspension here.
Are these your own creation, these guys?
Yeah, so the sliders, as far as the fabrication and all the accessories here, this is all us. This is DOM sliders, dimple die top, welded directly to the frame, everything gusseted. So our own kind of signature design. You know, it's a design that's just nice and tight. I did build these in a way where I can still stand on them, you know, if I need to kind of get something off the roof or whatever, or just use it as a step. Otherwise, you know, we build them a little bit tighter. So I got little kids, so it's nice for them. It's easy for them to get in and out. So
makes sense, man.
So same goes for the rear bumper. The rear bumper, same thing, 1.75" DOM tubing. We chopped, I want to say, 2–3 inches off the factory cross member in the back, and we built out this bumper, which is also welded. This is not something that we usually do, but being a purpose-built rock crawler, you know, I know exactly what I'll be using this truck for. So removing it's not a factor. So we just want it to be nice and strong. So tubular design, D-ring mounts built into the reinforcement, into the actual kind of the structure part of the bumper. We have straight pipe exhaust that runs through the truck above all the linkage, and it protrudes through the cross member and through the bumper. So that's
say that again slowly. The exhaust, that's the dual exhaust coming out of the bumper right there.
Yeah, so we rerouted exhaust with the, we have a MagnaFlow X pipe that is tucked in somewhere in the middle there. So in order for the exhaust not to be damaged, we recessed everything within the bumper. So let's say if we back into something, I'm not worried about, you know, clipping the tips or, you know, or bending it or you know, obstructing it in any way. So it looks cool.
It's amazing. It's amazing because tailpipes, exhaust always take the beating. Exactly. When you're doing, especially when you're doing the Rubicon.
Absolutely, exhaust is it's always an afterthought. You know, oh, it's there, I'll get to it, and you know, nobody ever does. So we kind of designed this with that in mind, to run this thing right through the center, and you know, and it sounds incredible.
It does. It does indeed.
As far as the rear axle, like I said, this is the axle out of same Ford Super Duty 2005 and up. We did do a shave kit from Ballistic Fabrication. You can tell the bottom of the axle is just flat, so the shave kit removes about 1.5 inches or so from the factory housing. So
1.5 inches?
Yeah. So
wow.
1.5 inches, which requires to cut down the housing and shave down the ring gear, just where it won't affect its strength. So it's just enough clearance to clear that ring gear, you know, and clear the.
So you went way above and beyond.
Well, you know, we like to install stuff that works, and this particular one, I mean, 2 inches. It's sometimes it's enough for you to be hung up on something or not. So clearance is clearance. So
the beautiful thing I like about this shop is that you've actually built not one, not two, but you've got like 3 or 4 vehicles that would be considered elsewhere as showcase vehicles. You've got this one. No, you know what I'm saying?
It's a show. Well, I suppose it can be used for show, but these are the vehicles we built. They're purpose-built vehicles. So,
but still, underneath, I've already climbed underneath this to get footage. It's amazing.
Yeah, this thing. I mean,
it's amazing. The attention to detail is insane, dude.
Thank you. It's used. It gets beat. You know, it's made to work. It's made to eat. So, you know, like. All the linkage, all the fabrication, you know, being here in Northern California in the Sierras, we know the kind of terrain that's here, you know, so we build trucks to handle that sort of terrain. So as far as the suspension, the rear, we did what's called a reverse 4-link.
Can you explain that as dumb as you can?
Reverse 4-link, so basically there's 4 mounts, 4 bars, 4 links that hold the axle in place. Traditionally, Toyota comes with a 4-link and a panhard bar, which is a bar that connects from your frame to your side of your axle, and it keeps your axle centered. Having a triangulated 4-link, in this case a reverse 4-link, it allows us to not run a panhard bar. So just the 4 bars, 4 links are keeping this axle centered. So this just allows us to have less moving parts, less components, less things to break. And you know, as far as the driving matters and drivability and all that, it does just fine. So we can go, you know, fairly quickly, fairly fast with this truck. We can go slow. The axle articulates perfect. There's no binding. There's no issues when it comes to that.
Wow.
So. And the reason why we did 4-link on this truck versus a reverse 4-link versus a standard 4-link is I wanted to retain the factory gas tank. I didn't want to deal with evap and moving all that stuff around.
You didn't want the tank inside the truck either.
I definitely didn't want it inside the truck, lose some of the space. So we retained the factory gas tank, and because we did that, we couldn't run a traditional forward 4-link. That's why we did the rear. So nothing is hitting anything. So the upper links are typically would be in the way for the gas tank, where in this case, nothing's in the way. Let
me ask you, is this 4-link setup something you stole from the fabrications you do for desert racers?
So yeah, desert racers definitely do a lot of 4-link suspensions. Not so much reverse 4-link.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Just curious.
It's a concept that's been done. It's not as popular because there's really no need to do a reverse 4-link unless you have space clearance constraints like we did. So.
Got you.
As far as some of the aesthetics, going back to the bumper, we wanted to retain most of the body at least. So as you can see, the factory plastic is still in place, but rather than just kind of warping around the bumper, we just ate right into it. So we just chopped the bumper with the light, with everything else, and just filled the gap with what used to be a one single piece. Fill the gap here in between the tube work, so everything just kind of blends in. So from the side, you just think, yo, it just has some tube work around it. Well, it's a little bit more than that. It's all kind of built together. So now, as far as the rear suspension, 14-inch coilovers, we did have to cut into the body in order to fit these guys in. We ended up doing towers with the removable caps inside in order so we can service the coilovers. Any-rock rear sway bar, pretty standard for this kind of application. Car-Tech limit straps. Let's see, beadlock wheels. I mean, lockers, gears, all the standard stuff. So,
what are you running in here for gears?
This is 538. 538 gears from Sierra, which is a local gear house here in the West Coast. West Coast Differential, shout out to them.
So when he just opened that, you weren't expecting to see this. You were expecting to see suspension sticking up in the back like every other vehicle, but Dimitri doesn't do that.
No. So again, we wanted to retain all the usability. So these are towers. They're welded into the body. We cut out some of the factory plastics. These caps are removable. just some button heads. You can remove this thing and just unbolt the coilover if need to. But otherwise, everything's sealed, so it's there's no water or any noise or anything like that. We ride and align everything, all these towers before we weld them in, so kind of helps with some of the noise. I mean, this thing is pretty loud, but we just kind of quiet down a little bit.
It's
at least in the cab.
I would have bet money after listening to you start this truck that it had a Corvette motor in it. And it doesn't, huh?
Everybody always asks me, like, does this thing's got an LS? Everybody swaps LS. So this particular 4Runner is a rare model in the sense that they came factory with a 4.7 V8. So this is the only generation that Toyota offered a V8 in a 4Runner. So it's got a stock V8. This is the same V8 that you would find in Tundra. You find that in the Land Cruiser and some of the Lexus models, but 2UZ V8. This is Toyota's flagship V8 motor. So at the time, at least 4.7. I think it pushes around 300 horsepower, which is pretty good for the time being.
Yeah, there was a lot of interest in the positioning of the bump stops, I guess, on Instagram. I posted pictures of this last night. Is there something unusual that you did?
Well, the rear bump stops are set up on the inside. So
yeah.
That's as you can see, they're actually inside the frame, and honestly, the reason we did that is just simply for just clearance and packaging. So, but
it works.
It works just fine. Yeah,
and it looks beautiful, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, the attention to detail, the stuff that people don't see unless some asshole's making a video like right now, is amazing. I already paid my bill, so I'm not saying it's for any discounts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, we take a lot of pride in what we do.
And it shows, and it's awesome to see it, brother.
As far as the interior, again, it's fairly stock. The only thing we added was a Switch Pro, which is kind of like a command center to control the accessory. So we have our air compressor, we have our front locker, rear locker, we have our fog lights, and we have our LED bar. So we have 3 more spots to fill in, but nice and clean, almost OEM-like. Nothing's
except for the shifter. I probably wouldn't even have noticed the Switch Pod at all, or Switch Pro, whichever it is. Sorry, guys.
The shifter, yeah. So that's another thing that we kind of made this to make it crawl better. We're using a Marlin crawler taco box. This is the early ones that they released in I want to say late 2017.
You do a ton of work with Marlin Crawler, correct?
Marlin Crawler, they're right next to us in Fresno, so we do a lot of their components. So Taco Box, a lot of their gearing, low range stuff. We've been doing a lot of their raw crawler kits for IFS suspensions, but this particular one's got a Taco Box. Made it to a 2019 Toyota 4Runner transfer case. Yeah, I mean, it's got low. It'll
as low as you can go.
Yeah, we can walk this thing with our pinky.
That's crazy.
So
that's now that's
all business here. So we have our resis with adjusters. We got our tank for our PSC Hydro Assist. We did have to relocate the intake just so we can package everything else here. Griffin radiators with dual fans. We got our controller for our winch.
What were you telling me about the ARB breathers running off the top of the reservoir right there?
Oh yeah, so it's just something different. I mean, it's a standard ARB breather that we're running our differentials and gears and all that. But we also, since they had another connection, we also hooked up a breather for PSC Hydro Assist cylinder.
That's very cool.
I mean, it's right next to it, so why not?
And tell them what you were telling me about the position of the hood scoop on this. And the reservoirs,
sure.
because it was my first. When I saw this, you weren't here yet. The moment I saw this, I said, does the heat from the engine affect those at all?
So there's a lot of open space in this engine bay, so the engine breathes fairly well. But particularly when it comes to the resis, this 4Runner came with this is a sport model. So it came with a sport hood, and it actually has a functional scoop. So as you can see, it's the resis sit right where the air entered the engine bay. So
that is crazy.
So when you're going fast, I mean even slow, it just gives it a little bit more cooling. So
you've got the cooling covered. I mean, you've got fans everywhere.
Yeah, we got a transmission cooler, we got power steering, and then another cooler, so everything is cooled down.
Mishimoto, well. I see.
Yeah, Mishimoto. This is a kit that they offer with the fan, so it's nice. You can really hook this up to anything.
Have you ever used the rails?
derails? No, I don't think I have.
That's what I just put on mine for my tranny cooler.
Yeah.
Because I was treating the symptom as opposed to the problem.
Yeah.
Problem is now cured. Thank you.
Bumper similar to the rear bumper. It's welded directly to the frame. This is a one-off bumper we did just for this truck, kind of like our signature design. Come-up winch, 12,000-pound come-up winch. We clocked it in a way where we can still access the clutch.
You were just telling me before we turned the camera on, that you really did come-up winches legit, like you.
Yeah, we like their winches. They're really reliable. They come from an industrial line of winching, so cranes and recovery with tow trucks and all that. So that's kind of their specialty, and their civilian use of offerings when it comes to winches. It's they have this heritage of like doing really big things. So we like them. We've had good run with them, and we've never had any issues with them. So all of our personal trucks we use come up. So. Sweet. Yeah. Baja Design lights, just a small little LED bar in the front.
That's that company, Extreme LED?
Yeah, Extreme LED, and we offer them this brand in our shop, but particularly for this build, we ran it just because of packaging. I think it's like an 18-inch bar, like a 20 didn't quite fit, 10 looked kind of weird. This one filled in the space really well, so we went with Extreme LED on this.
Sweet. I tried to get them for my 4Runner, but they were back ordered.
Yeah.
So I ended up going with Baja Design. So does that pretty much cover this particular animal?
That's pretty much it. I mean,
and this is the Russian mule.
This Moscow Mule, yeah.
Moscow Mule, my bad.
So we have a couple of aesthetical things. I mean, just the newer lights, grill, more modern grill. We got a little aluminum skid plate, kind of removing the top here.
I gotta say, it's probably one of the most beautiful rock crawlers, man. It's not like a NASCAR. Like a lot of guys just have sheet metal.
Yeah.
This is all functional. Even the strut towers in the rear. I mean, it's just really nice work. My job allows me to see a lot of these.
Yeah.
And this one really struck me, so it's just a work of art, man.
Yeah.
And it's just one of your many vehicles. Well, let's wrap it up before I start wandering. Anything else?
Well, as far as a lot of people say, is this it? What else could we add to this thing? I think for the most part we are done. I mean, I might add simple things like backup cameras or whatnot, but I like to keep things, as far as the interior, very clean, very simple. Leave the factory ergonomics. It's all business on the outside. It works, it performs. So I think we're gonna keep it as is and just wheel it and see what happens.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, man. Dimitri, I really appreciate your time. And I'm going to find some video of this thing wheeling. So there's that.
Alrighty.
All right, on to the next one. So visiting Stellar Built was a highlight of my trip so far. What an amazing shop, amazing builds, and an amazing crew. If you're ever in Sacramento, these are the guys you want working on your truck. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below, and I will try to return the favor. I am out.